Hey, beautiful soul. You're listening to the Rising into Mindful Motherhood podcast, your weekly dose of fertility wisdom. I'm your host, Dr. Katie Wood. I'm a barefoot mama bear, pharmacist, and integrative fertility coach. This is your go-to podcast for all things to naturally nourish your fertility, embody womb healing, and reclaim your feminine power to accelerate your path to pregnancy. My expert guests and I will be having intentional conversations to discuss the many facets of a thriving, fertile foundation, natural wellness, and how we grow and transform as women on our journey to motherhood. So let's dive in, shall we? Hello and welcome to Rising into Mindful Motherhood. In this episode, I'll be talking with Danielle Grace, a relationship coach who guides women who are looking to clean up their side of the street in their relationship. Danielle helps them understand the programming that keeps them in vicious cycles and spirals. She focuses on communication, self-awareness, curiosity, proper relationship dynamics, and identity shifts. In today's episode, we'll be discussing how getting curious about your partner's world can set the stage to create a team effort on your fertility journey. And I just wanted to give a little preface to this episode. So Danielle and I are in the same business mentorship, and I was viewing, I think it was was it the Love Savvy
Oh,
book?
the ultimate love savvy snapshot.
Yes, the Ultimate Love Savvy Snapshot. And just the way she was speaking to relationships and the different pieces of everything, it just really, really resonated with me. And I think whether you're on a fertility journey or not, these are going to be tips that you can take with you throughout your life, throughout however many relationships you have left before you in your lifetime. So definitely give this a listen, and I'm just excited to dive in. So welcome, Danielle. Super excited for our conversation today.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about your story and how you became passionate about relationship coaching.
Yeah, so unfortunately, my story sounds very similar to a lot of women that I've spoken to and who have been through my coaching program. And it's basically where, like, you were in a relationship and things fell apart and you got divorced. I was in a relationship for about 8 years, and I was a very successful teacher in that process. And unfortunately, my career got the better of me, and I thought I knew what I was doing in my relationship, like a lot. Like I thought I knew how to communicate. I thought I knew how to be a good wife, how to be a good girlfriend. And it turns out that it happened right around COVID, which is where a lot of these people are starting to have shifts as well. It happened to be that I wasn't actually as very good at it at all. Even being a teacher, even being someone who was steeped in literature, I was an English major, I have a master's degree in education. I was the one that actually drove my relationship into the ground because I was way too headstrong. The way that I viewed my partner was very unhealthy. And all of it stemmed from the fact that I didn't have a lot of healthy examples when I was a kid. My mom had divorced twice. My dad was in the picture, but not in the picture. So I didn't really have really good examples growing up of what healthy relationships and healthy dynamics looked like. So I was just going off of what I knew, what was coming to me from the media, movies, TV, even books that told you how relationships are supposed to be. And I didn't realize at the time that the majority of the advice or the examples that I was steeped in were also toxic. They were
Mhm.
just wildly unhealthy. And so you just start to mimic those things. And it didn't come out until I ruined my relationship. And I realized after the fact, it's almost like a spell was broken. And I could see, oh my God, I did that. I couldn't see his perspective. It was an awakening of a different kind. And it led to me absolutely crumbling and promising myself that if I could help women not go through this the way I did and remain in their relationships, remain intact, then I would pour my entire heart into it because our society and as human beings, we thrive on healthy relationships. But if you don't have those examples, then you don't have much to build on. And I'm determined to help women mature into their highest version so that they can create those foundations for themselves and others.
Hmm. Yeah, what a beautiful story. And just thinking that when you were talking about different examples, I am the youngest in my family, so I have two older sisters, and I feel like seeing their relationships also influenced me too, not just my parents who were divorced. But yeah, I don't know if you have older siblings. And what's coming through for me to share, and I'm sure you can speak to this more, is if you're listening to this and you're thinking to yourself, I don't need to change anything in my relationship. I am not the one that causes any issues. That is just your little ego trying to protect you. So just try to let that go and be open to the possibility. And like we're going to be talking about today, just getting curious without judging yourself or blaming and shaming yourself. Like, hmm, is there any room for improvement on my end in any of these areas?
Yeah. Yeah, I hear that a lot. The like the looking outward to who is doing me harm and like their issues, they have problems. And I do find that women will often say they'll admit that they have something to work on, okay? However, that thing that they think they need to work on will often be dismissed or overshadowed by what they feel their partner needs to work on. And so it's almost like, oh, I'm self-aware of this. I'm self-aware of this. It's okay. Self-awareness is like step one. And it's a beautiful step to take. But if you stay in self-awareness, then things don't change. And you think you're doing work, you think you're changing, but in reality, you're not. So that curiosity is a pivotal piece because curiosity is like, I know curiosity isn't a verb, but to be curious, it's like an ongoing thing. It's like a state of being. And this curiosity needs to extend, yes, to your partner, but also to yourself, like you said, being curious about how are you showing up? And the piece of it that I've noticed that causes the most struggle is what does it mean if I have things that I need to change? What does that mean about me? And oh my God, I don't know if I can handle that. I don't know if I can handle the consequences of my actions that have happened. I don't know if I can face that. And that comes down to something that I talk about quite a lot with my clients, and it's self-efficacy, the ability to basically handle what life throws at you, whether it's good, bad, or in the middle.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think I like to think of it sometimes as taking radical responsibility when you're able to get to that step.
Yeah,
So
totally.
let's talk about curiosity. What does that look like in a relationship? Or if someone is listening and they're open to these ideas, how can they begin thinking about that and cultivating that into their relationship?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, curiosity to me is that childlike wonderment where you know some stuff, but there's a lot you don't know. And it's not that you don't know, but you're so eager to find out. Every turn of the corner could be something amazing. And this is different than just being open because you can be open to every turn of the corner could be the shoe drops and your life crumbles before you. So, yes, you need to be open, but curiosity has this distinct positive tail to it that you understand this could be incredible in my life, and this could give me information that I didn't have before, and it could enrich my life more than it is now. When we become adults, we start to become cynical and jaded. And so our curiosity is almost beaten out of us. That old phrase, like curiosity killed the cat, we start shying away from being curious. Because what if we get bit? What if something bad happens to us because we touched that animal or we did something? But there's a lesser known ending to that phrase. So it's curiosity killed the cat, but satisfaction brought it back. Including that into your phrasing gives you permission to stop thinking that you know everything, which is another huge piece that I talk to people about. We often feel as if, oh, we already got it figured out. Yeah, we don't have everything figured out, but like I know stuff. I know a lot of stuff. And we start to make a lot of assumptions under that guise of I'm an adult. I know things. Yeah, some stuff, but you don't know everything about everything. And that's really apparent when it comes to like the media. We often see things come at us, but we all know to some degree that these things that are coming at us are not true in varying levels. So it's interesting to start dipping into curiosity and thinking to yourself, like, what happens if I don't know the things that I think I know? And it throws your world for a loop because you're like, what is it that I don't know? And you start to question everything. And this is where I think a lot of people are right now, at least the ladies who come to me, they are
Mhm.
in this position where they're like, I know something is not the way that I think it is, but I don't know what that is. I don't know what that looks like. And it's a little scary when you're an adult and all of a sudden the majority of your world is no longer what you thought it was and maybe never was. So in relationships, if you're with a partner, that person that you call your partner, there is so much about them that you don't know. They had an entire life before you. And if you ever split, they will have an entire life after you that you have no idea about. Their inner workings, no clue. And they can only give you so much verbally, like emotionally, energetically. You'll never know everything that's inside their head, but talking to them is a good place to start. And asking them their perspective is a good place to start because everybody does things. Well, the majority of people do things because they think that's what's best in the moment. So if somebody's doing something that you don't like, it's really easy to get offended. It's really easy to get defensive, but it's not easy to look at them and ask yourself, I wonder what's making them do that. I wonder what made them think that was the best choice right now. And when you can set aside your defensiveness and set aside your ego a little bit and get curious about their world, you'll find that it opens up a whole cabinet of like things that you had no idea existed. And it's wild, but it deepens connection like no other. And I found even the most hard to crack men are deeply affected by the curiosity of a woman.
In what way? What do you mean by deeply affected?
They all of a sudden start to open when they have worked hard to stay shut.
Hmm.
It's like a magic wand. You start listening to somebody, you start asking them their opinions, you start
Hmm.
appreciating their viewpoint. All of this comes from curiosity, and all of a sudden that man opens up like a book. It's
Hmm.
wild.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I want to make sure I was understanding that piece.
Mhm.
And I feel like everything you're saying, just thinking through the fertility lens, like two people going through sometimes a very traumatic experience. Like I had a call with a couple yesterday, and they've had four losses, some of
Oh,
them later in the pregnancy. So
yeah.
just going through that in two different individuals, and they most likely grieve in different ways. And I know that sometimes assumptions can be made about how we think someone may be feeling, but really they may
Mhm.
be feeling a completely different way. And
Yeah.
then a lot of times I see where the men don't feel like they want to share their burden or add their feelings and burdens onto their wife or their partner because they are already going through it, not just emotionally, but also physically as well.
Mhm.
And I think that this is where that curiosity can come into play because unless you have that open line of communication and really begin asking questions, really, that you won't actually know those answers.
Yeah. And that again, that's where the curiosity comes in. And things like this, like these very tender topics, these are best broached when you are not in the middle of it. When you are having like a strong day, those are the days where it's a good idea to broach these types of topics because if he's feeling that way, he's probably not telling you that he's like, I don't want to burden you. And to a degree, that makes sense. He doesn't want to add anything more to her plate. However, he should not have to march on in silence, especially if he has no male people to speak to, if he has a very small friend group, or he's not in a community of some kind that he can express himself, then being able to speak to her and being open is incredibly important. But just for the relationship itself, I'm not an advocate of sharing every tiny little detail that comes through someone's mind
Mhm.
because we need to maintain our individuality and some things are best kept private, even from your partner. Like just those really inner feelings sometimes, and it's just not, you don't have to share everything. But I think that, especially with something that they're going through together, understanding that there almost has to be like ground rules that have to go down. Like, I would love to hear what your perspective is on this. I would love to hear what you're feeling as we go through this. However, this is where curiosity comes in with women. You must know yourself. You must know yourself and your capacity, even during these hard times, because you may want your partner to share with you, but if you are having a hard day and they don't know, they don't see the difference because you're really good at holding it together and like he wants to share with you and all of a sudden you snap because you didn't have the mind to tell him, that's not his fault. And what that teaches him is that this openness that you were asking for is not welcome.
Mhm.
And that's unfortunate, especially if you don't know how to repair that situation. And so going back to the original point of you have to set ground rules when things are okay so that he knows when it's okay to share and you know what to say to him if he wants to share and you don't have the capacity for that. You want to create that safe space for everyone and let him know that I'm not going to hold this against you. I'm not going to make you feel bad. I'm not going to snap at you. You can trust me that I'm going to tell you if I need to tap out. That's huge. And that's part of the groundwork that needs to be done. And then you need to stick to it. So if you do get offended, like that's when you tap out. That's when you say, okay, I can't handle this right now. I love you, but I can't handle this right now.
Mhm. Yeah, so thinking to what you were saying about if she's having a hard day and he's wanting to share, so would you say there should be some sort of check-in beforehand? Like before you start talking about the big things and the hard things. Hey, is today a good day to talk about this?
Yeah, absolutely. And that can be whatever phrasing that you guys are comfortable with. I often ask my ladies to ask him, like, hey, if I'm having a hard day and you want to share, what's the best way for me to tell you that so that you don't feel like I'm just brushing you off? And it becomes
Mhm.
a collaboration. We do a lot of talk about collaboration because most of the time we think we know what's best, and then our partner thinks they know what's best. And then instead of actually seeing how to find that middle ground where everybody's happy, we go like this.
Mhm.
And like we miss the boat, like we're passing ships in the night. And so when we ask for collaboration, when we ask for, hey, how would this land best with you? Then not only are you getting their opinion, not only are you getting their thoughts on this, but then later on, let's say you try to use that phrasing and they fly off the handle at you, you can be like, hey, I'm using what you asked for. And if that's not working anymore, can we find something else? And it gives you the opportunity to hold them to their word because not everybody's good at that either. So you have that accountability built in when you make that collaborative effort. But yeah, phrases like that, hey, can I share something with you? Or would it be okay to share something with you? I have feelings around this. Is now a good time? That's also a really good one so that we're respecting each other's time because maybe she doesn't have time. Like maybe she's got something else to do, or there's something in the laundry, or there's something that's a little bit like pressing for it. And unless that's taken care of, she really won't be able to focus on what's happening. So yes, I fully support phrasing and check-ins.
Mhm. Absolutely. I feel like this is a great segue to talk about humility and active listening in the relationship. So let's say we've found a good time for both partners to share and talk about the hard things or whatever that may be coming up for them on their fertility journey. So what does active listening look like and what can that do for their relationship?
Yeah, focusing on active listening is a big, big piece of relationship shifts, period. Usually people are listening to respond and they're not actually listening to understand. And that's what active listening is. You are listening to gain information about what that person is saying. You are looking for understanding their perspective. And if all you're doing is looking to respond, then you are completely missing a golden opportunity to deepen connection with your partner. So, from my perspective, active listening is where you form those deep connections. So, your phone is away, you're not watching TV, or if you are, like it's in the background and you're completely focused, you are either making eye contact or you are at least not focusing on something else because sometimes eye contact can be difficult, especially in difficult conversations. So, all of those and a couple more pieces are involved in active listening. The basis is the desire to understand what your partner is saying. And that leads into humility because sometimes what your partner is saying, it will not land well with you. And especially if you're in these tender moments and they're saying, like, giving you feedback. Hey, I didn't like how you said that. Or, hey, there's something going on that I don't like. This is where that curiosity about yourself also comes in. And you start to hear them and say, okay, is there truth to what they're saying? Am I falling down right here? Could I be doing better there? So, making sure this is an active situation and you're thinking about what they're saying is paramount, which can be difficult if you have a history or a pattern of defensiveness and taking everything personally, like it's like a personal affront to your self-worth, which we often feel as if our behaviors are a sense of our worth. If we do something wrong, that we're bad as a person. If we make a mistake, that we're not worth as much as a person. And it often stems from fearing a lack of love or that love will be taken away from us if we make a mistake. And that's really nice when you actually come to that conclusion because you realize that it's not true.
Mhm.
And the people who in the past may have taken love away from you because you made a mistake, that was an inappropriate response. Sometimes you realize that authority figures in your life, whether it was teachers, parents, grandparents, who responded to mistakes that you made, they were authority figures. So you thought everything they did was right and you were wrong. But those authority figures were just like you as you are now. And you come to realize that people make mistakes, people exaggerate, people don't have appropriate responses to everything because of their histories. And so you start to unweave some of the thoughts and beliefs that you had about people, and you realize that love won't be taken away from you just because you make a mistake. So you start to welcome feedback because when you can change for your partner based on what you're hearing from them through your active listening, when you can change things for your partner to make the union better, then the union gets better as opposed to you butting heads because you don't think you have anything to change, but maybe you think you do. You're just not ready to admit it.
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah, that was a mic dropper right there. Love that so much. And let's just say someone that's listening to this is the type that can get defensive. How can we lessen that grip and let that go?
Yeah. One of the big things I tell people is that, do you think your partner is trying to hurt you?
Mm.
Usually, when we get defensive, somebody's touched a nerve and it feels like we are literally being attacked, like somebody's trying to come at us with a sword. And we have to remember, like, our partner is not trying to hurt us. They are probably speaking from a place of unmet needs. And it's not always our responsibility to meet somebody else's needs. And that's a huge piece that we talk about in what I do. But there are some things that absolutely, yes, you can meet those for them. However, you may not be very adept at meeting it yet. And I always say relationships are like training grounds. You are constantly training your partner on how to love you, and he is constantly training you on how to love him, but only if you see it that way. This is a relationship is 100% growth at all times. Things change, people change, opportunities change, and that's something that needs to be incorporated into a relationship. But going back to defensiveness, this is also where humility comes in. Usually, again, this goes back to, oh, they're telling me something that I did wrong, or they think I did it wrong, and now love is going to be removed from me. So I need to defend myself so that he doesn't take love away from me, so that he doesn't think I'm stupid, so that he doesn't think XYZ, because that's not me. That's not me. And you're not seeing me right now. So it also has an identity piece attached to it. There's often a level of being unseen as a person when we get defensive. And it goes back to a lot of the patterns that we hold. And unless we have curiosity about ourselves and we are willing to start, I call unhooking things, we start unhooking things from our identity that we think are part of us, but they're not, then we're going to continue to be defensive. Defensiveness is a very deep, sticky, complex combination of all kinds of patterns. And so, as much as I would absolutely love to be like, here's that one trick that's going to get rid of defensiveness, I
Yeah.
would love to do that. But it's just not so. And I know
Mm.
everybody wants that quick fix. I want to give you that quick fix, but it starts with humility and recognizing that he's not trying to hurt you.
Yeah. It's almost like you have to get to the root cause of where that defensiveness came from in the beginning.
Yeah. And that's the truth of it. I know for me particularly, and that's another piece of it too. Everyone's defensiveness comes from somewhere different. There are a few big camps, but like for me, whenever I get defensive, it's because I think my partner thinks I'm stupid. And I have a huge aversion from my past to
Hmm.
being called stupid. It's major for me. And I've done a lot of work around it, and my defensiveness has gone down to almost nil at this point. But that's not for everybody. Not everyone is going to get defensive because of that specific thing.
Hmm.
So you must do the work for yourself. What made me defensive about that? We do a lot of visualization in what I do, and we start to replay certain things that have happened, not because we're going to sit in it and feel bad, but because we're going to start to pick it apart, kind of like a scientist. We start to examine, like, how was I feeling there? What was happening in my body? What was happening in my brain? What did this feeling that I had, when did I feel it last? So that you can trace it back. And usually it's crazy. It's like magic. Something from your past will pop up, and it's usually the exact moment where that you are replaying every single time you get defensive. Every single time that thing pops up when you get defensive. And as soon as you can pinpoint it after you've done reflection, you talked about radical responsibility. I also talk about radical reflection. And when you can reflect like that, you start to get to the root, and you can start to unfold that and realize that you don't have to carry that with you anymore.
Beautiful. I love that. Love that so much. And I know you have a freebie for the listeners, the Thinking Woman's Guide to Love That Lasts, if you want to share a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So that is a book that I wrote. I wrote it, oh gosh, a couple years ago, and I swear to you, what's in it is timeless. It's all these different ways that you can start to make gradual changes in your relationship, because big, huge, sweeping, massive changes, they usually don't stick. And if anybody tells you that they can do that for you, they're lying and they're trying to sell you something. So, like, you need those small steps. You need the tools in your toolbox so that you can build your relationship skills, and then it compounds. So, if you've ever heard of compound effect, that happens in your relationships as well. You start those base level foundational skills, like are in my book, and then you continue to use them. And as you continue to use them, it's like an upward spiral as a compound effect. It's wonderful what I have seen happen just using a few of the concepts that are in that book.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that. The link for that will be in the show notes, and let the listeners know where they can find you, connect with you, and learn more.
Yeah, absolutely. So my main platform is Instagram, and you can find me there at the Danielle Grace.
Awesome. Thanks so much for this conversation, Danielle. It was fun and also deep. And I think that if someone can really sit with it and be open and get curious, that they're going to get a lot from this, especially if they check out your book as well. I think that that's just going to really expand on everything that we've talked about today. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the Rising into Mindful Motherhood podcast. If this episode resonated with you or gave you an aha moment, stop what you're doing right now and write a review. This simple act of kindness helps me get this podcast out to connect with as many women as I possibly can. I also have a special offer. If you send me a screenshot of your review, I will take $250 off one of my premium coaching containers. Let me know what resonated with you the most and why. So connect with me in my free Facebook community or tag me on Instagram. You'll find both listed below. Thanks again from the bottom of my heart for tuning in to this episode, and I'll see you next time.